Imagine a city that has survived everything: conquest, drought, and time itself, now staring down the throat of the greatest war machine the world has ever seen, the Roman Empire. This wasn't just a battle, it was an execution. For 4 years, Judea had been a thorn in Rome's side. The Jewish rebels had done the unthinkable. They kicked the Romans out. But Rome doesn't just lose. They regroup, they calculate, and they return with interest. Enter Titus. He's young, he's hungry for glory, and he's standing at the head of 60,000 battle-hardened legionaries. Surrounding the city, they didn't just pitch tents. They built a circumvallation wall, a 5-mile-long jagged circle of stone and wood that turned Jerusalem into a cage. No one gets in. No one gets out. If you were standing on the battlements of Jerusalem, the horizon wouldn't be hills. It would be wood. The Romans were the masters of industrialized slaughter. Enormous iron-headed battering rams hung from towers, swinging with enough force to liquefy stone. Their ballistae weren't just catapults. They launched 75-pound stones over a quarter mile. The defenders would watch for the white glint of the limestone against the blue sky and scream, "The sun is coming!" Then there were the siege towers, 5-story wooden skyscrapers covered in raw, wet animal hides to stop fire, slowly crawling toward the walls on hidden wheels. Inside, Jerusalem was a pressure cooker. It wasn't just Romans versus Jews. It was often Jew versus Jew. Rival factions fought over the last scraps of grain in the streets, while the Roman rams thudded against the outer walls like a giant, slow heartbeat. Starvation turned the holy city into a nightmare. Wealthy citizens were reduced to searching the sewers for undigested grain. The silence of the nights was broken only by the sound of the Roman engineers digging tunnels under the walls, trying to make the ground itself swallow the city. The siege ground on for months, a slow-motion car crash of ancient engineering. The Romans breached the first wall, then the second. Each foot of ground cost thousands of lives. The defenders were literal skeletons in armor, driven by a religious fervor that terrified even the Roman veterans. They launched night raids, burning Roman siege engines in desperate suicide missions. But for every machine burned, the Roman engineers simply built 2 more. The climax didn't happen in a day. It happened in a roar. The Romans finally breached the inner walls and spilled into the temple courts. This was the Second Temple, a wonder of the ancient world covered in enough gold to blind you in the morning sun. It was the heart of the nation, the physical house of God on earth. Titus supposedly wanted to save it, perhaps as a trophy. But war has its own momentum. A frustrated soldier, standing on the shoulders of a comrade, grabbed a flaming piece of wood and hurled it through a golden window into the inner sanctuary. The result was a firestorm. The gold melted and ran into the cracks of the stones. The Roman soldiers, frenzied by greed and bloodlust, literally tore the temple apart, stone by stone, to get to the gold that had seeped between them. The heat was so intense, it cracked the massive marble foundations. Just as Jesus had predicted decades earlier, not one stone was left upon another. The carnage that followed was beyond description. The historian Josephus claims the blood flowed so thick, it actually extinguished fires in some parts of the city. The Romans didn't just want to surrender. They wanted an ending. They systematically leveled the city. The beautiful palaces of the Hasmoneans, the markets, the archives, all of it was fed to the flames or pulled down by ropes. When the smoke finally cleared, the city of peace was a graveyard of ash. Titus didn't just defeat the rebellion, he erased the epicenter of Jewish life. To celebrate, the Romans built the Arch of Titus in Rome, depicting soldiers carrying away the great menorah. Jerusalem was left so flat. The survivors were sold into slavery. This moment didn't just end a war, it changed the world forever, creating a diaspora that would last for nearly 2,000 years.